صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك الطاهرين ما خاب من تمسك بكم أمنا من لجأ إلى حسنكم سادتي. سيدي صاحب الزمان أنت المعزى يا بجدك أمير المؤمنين لبس الإسلام إبراد السواد حين أرد المرتضى سيف المراد قتلوه وهو في محرابه طاويا الأحشاء عنها وزايا يا سيدي يا أمير المؤمنين يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم خلق كل شيء فقدره تقديرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Enlighten your majalis and bless this gathering with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Moving on from the past 2 days where we were talking about piety, we were talking about jihad al-nafs, and we're looking at how Quran can be a cure for a human being and how do we allow the Quran to affect us, which was vital, especially when we talk about the night of Qadr, and we are talking about the nights in which Allah revealed the Quran. But another important thing to talk about on the nights of Qadr is the idea of decree and destiny. Because in the nights of Qadr, many times we say, ask for your hajat. Or we'll finish a dua and we'll say, now ask for your hajat. Or for example, you'll ask even through the written ad'iyah of our holy infallibles of certain things to come in this year and in the coming years. For example, allow me to be amongst those who perform the Hajj in this year and in the coming years. Meaning we are making dua for things to happen in the future. And many times, a person comes back to think, hold on a second, Allah Azza wa Jal already knew what I am going to do. Allah Azza wa Jal, sometimes a person thinks, no, maybe not does He only know what I am going to do, He has already decided it for me. Meaning, whether I make a dua or not, me going to Hajj this year has already been decided. Whether I make dua or not, going to Hajj in the year after is already decided. Whether I make dua or not, Allah Azza wa Jal has already decided when I will die And that is why in the Quran it says that they will not even be delayed by a moment, or nor will they die a moment before the time of their death. So then we ask the question, do I truly have a role in writing my destiny then? Or are these just du'as so that we can come together as a community and recite Ad'iyah, and we have been made to think as if I have a role in writing my destiny? The reality is that each and every single one of us plays a role in writing their own destiny, even at times, and we will leave that for another day. In a few days we've got a topic titled The Effects of Sinning, where you see that we could even have an effect on someone else's destiny through our actions. But we'll focus that talk there, inshallah. However, for today, we will look at what our aqeedah is when it comes to the issue of taklif. When Allah Azza wa Jal made something obligatory upon us, and when He made something forbidden on us. And we will see that after all of that, does Allah Azza wa Jal, or can Allah Azza wa Jal change His decree on a certain thing? Then we will look at the night of Qadr and how I can actually make a change and understand the difference between decree and destiny. After which we will look at how Allah changes, or does He actually change His mind on a certain issue just because I did something. And then lastly we will look at how we can approach the nights of Qadr, especially the next 2 nights that are coming up, inshallah. And we shall do that with your permission and with the blessings of 3 loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. I mean, there is no harm in doing one more salawat that is much louder than that, as this was a very weak salawat. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah Azza wa Jal created the creation, and He created them for a purpose. And the purpose of creation, why were we created, we'll come to talk about that on another night, inshallah. However, He created them with a purpose. And one of those issues that is mentioned in the Quran is that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and we did not create humankind and jinn except for worship. So therefore, one of the purpose of creation is worship. This is one of them. One of the purpose of creation is worship. However, if Allah Azza wa Jal requires us to come closer to Him, then it is necessary upon Him to put takalif. Taklif in the Arabic language is when you create a hardship on someone. Meaning, even for example, when someone in the Iraqi community, sometimes there's mujamalat that go on, it says, I want to akelfek. Akelfek means I want to put you through a hardship on something. And then the other person will say, for example, what is it that you need? And that person will do it. The reason they say akelfek is because they think that that is something that would put a burden on them. Taklif in reality is a burden upon a person. Taklif in reality is a hardship upon a person. Now a person is going to tell me and say, well, hold on a second, so you're saying Allah puts a burden on us? Yes. Allah puts a hardship on us? Yes. So where did all the ayat go where Allah Azza wa Jal wants ease upon the slave and He doesn't want hardship? It is from His mercy that He burdens us. And it is from His mercy that He has made us go through specific hardships. And the hardship does not always have to be in the form of a test where a person goes through extreme measures, that which they cannot handle. As Allah Azza wa Jal says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not charge a soul except for what it can bear. Meaning, whatever test is put forward to me is of that which I can bear. Allah Azza wa Jal knows I can bear this. As for the other takalif, yes, they're a burden on me. But why are they a burden? Not necessarily because they are that which I cannot handle. Rather, they are a burden because I am now required to abide by a specific law. The burden is that I have 2 hours or an hour and a half between Tulu' al-Fajr and between Tulu' al-Shams to pray my Fajr prayers. That's the burden. The burden is, for example, that in the month of Ramadan I need to fast for 30 days from the time of Fajr until the time of Maghrib. That's a burden. But not in the sense that we cannot handle. Because if it was in the sense that we cannot handle, then in that case Allah Azza wa Jal has already taken that as a condition. If you are ill or you are upon travel, then you fast on other days. These are things that the Quran made very clear for us. However, this remains still a burden. But this burden is from His mercy. This burden comes from something that we call lutf. Lutf is that Allah Azza wa Jal brings a person or guides a person towards that which brings them closer to Him in terms of worship, such that they are closer in obedience and further away when it comes to the issues of disobedience. This is called lutf. And lutf is mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. Lutf is of the justice of Allah Azza wa Jal. Why? Our purpose is that we need to worship Allah. If He doesn't give us the takalif and tell us that this is exactly how you need to worship me, would I be able to worship Him according to how He wanted me to? No. And therefore, if He was to punish me on that, then I can come forward and say, you did not show me the way towards it. Which is why we have certain issues, such as, for example, sending prophets is a lot from Allah Azza wa Jal. Because prophets come for guidance. They bring you closer towards obedience and further away from disobedience. The Holy Quran that we hold between our hands, this is a lot from Allah Azza wa Jal. Its verses, like we mentioned yesterday, bring you closer to obedience and further away from disobedience. Of the things that are a mercy and a lot from Allah Azza wa Jal is taklif. Is the fact that He has made certain issues obligatory upon us, such as salah and siyam, and certain things forbidden on us, such as eating haram and drinking alcohol. These are things, why are they a lot? Because we said the definition of lutf is that which brings you closer to obedience and further away from disobedience. Therefore, taklif itself is that which brings you closer to Allah. And He also has shown us other ways in which we get closer to Him, and of them is dua. Dua is that which brings you closer to obedience and further away from disobedience. Therefore, dua is a what? A lutf. And it is mercy from Allah Azza wa Jal. Teaching us how to approach Him was a lutf and a mercy. Before someone says, most of our ad'iyah come from imams. Number one, we have beautiful du'as from the Quran that have been written by Allah Azza wa Jal. Another thing is that the ad'iyah that you find from the imams, they did not come with them from their pockets. These were things that they were taught either by the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and others, because they have the most recognition of Allah Azza wa Jal for them to know. Of the examples of the ones that were written by the Holy, or the ones that were given to them by the Holy Prophet, is Dua al-Jawshan al-Kabir, which we recited yesterday, we'll recite it tomorrow again, and in a couple of nights we'll recite it again. This Dua al-Jawshan al-Kabir is of the most important du'as. This Dua al-Jawshan is that dua of the shield. Why was it a shield? Because Jibreel alayhi salam came down to the Prophet with this dua in one of his wars. So if he came down to him with this, now I ask you, Jibreel brings something from his pocket? Or is he a wahi that brings that which Allah wants to the Prophet? From Allah, meaning Dua al-Jawshan comes from where? These are divine words. These are divine words. These are lutf. Why? Because they bring us closer to the obedience of Allah and further away from the disobedience of Allah. Which is why we have a beautiful narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi afdalu salati wa salam, where he says, Inna inda Allah manzila la tunal illa bil mas'ala. There is a status that a person can reach by Allah Azza wa Jal. You cannot reach that status except through mas'ala, through asking, through dua. This is the way in which we would reach that. We would reach that. But I ask you, Allah Azza wa Jal, can He change His decree on something specific? And here we need to make a differentiation. Here we need to make a differentiation between that which we call qada and that which we call qadar. The exact translation in English you cannot find. And therefore I will keep it as definition. I will leave it as definition. However, the exact translation to these things, usually we say decree for qada and destiny for qadar. However, Even when you look at the Oxford Dictionary of what decree and destiny mean, you will see that they have extremely similar meanings. But the reality is that we have different meanings for them, different definitions. Decree is that which Allah Azza wa Jal has ordained and cannot change. And that is qada. Qadar, destiny, is that which Allah has ordained but has allowed it room to move according to natural course of actions. The example of that is the example of a fetus. Allah Azza wa Jal has put the potential of a fetus to be born in the most perfect of manners. If that newborn is born with a disability, sometimes that is caused because of certain medication taken by the mother or certain environments the mother was living in. We say these natural courses of action that the mother took caused the destiny of the child to be in this specific way. This we call qadar. Qada cannot change. Qada cannot change. Which is why in many du'as you will recite that in the qada that cannot be changed at all. These are from our beloved infallibles. And I'll focus on this aspect in the Arabic language more. However, so this specific difference we need to make between qada and between qadar. So then we ask a question. Qadar is something that can change according to natural courses of action. Qadar can never change. So we ask a question. Do I even have control of my own actions? Or have I been ordered? Am I attached to strings and am I moved in this manner? Here we have, in reality, 3 different opinions. But for now, in the English language, I'm going to summarize it to 2 opinions. And I will focus on it more in the Arabic, inshallah. One opinion says that we are predestined in everything. Allah Azza wa Jal chose for us to be in a specific place, in a specific time, and to take certain actions. And this belief, for those who are interested in aqa'id and in creed, they are known, the people of this belief are known as the Asha'ira. They have this belief that Allah Azza wa Jal has decreed for me everything. Why? Because He is the cause of all causes. And because He is the cause of all causes, then in that case, even what I do was caused by who? By Allah Azza wa Jal. That is one. The second argument is that if I do an action out of free will, then I am a person who created an action. And that makes me a khaliq with Allah Azza wa Jal, which is shirk. So here, they said, number 1, He is the cause of all causes. Secondly, you are the khaliq. The issue is what? The issue we have with this ideology is that it takes away anything that we have of thawab and of iqab, of reward and of punishment. Because if Allah has ordered everything for it to go in a certain way, and I have no choice in it, then why would He reward me for something that He made me do? And likewise, why would He punish me for something that He forced me to do? And this goes against the justice of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the opposite group, known as the Mu'tazila, came and said, no, we want to keep the justice of Allah. Justice of Allah is the most important thing. And therefore, la mako predestination. Everything is free will. You are free to make whatever choice you want to make in this world. And no one is going to say anything to you. We also have an issue with that. Because if you say a person has complete free will, and Allah Azza wa Jal has nothing to do with His creation, that means you have taken Allah outside of His kingdom. And I ask you a question. Can Allah be taken away from His kingdom? No, He cannot. Is this all part of the kingdom of Allah? Yes. Is any single atom in the universe outside of the kingdom of Allah? No. Therefore, you cannot take Allah outside of His kingdom. And therefore, you cannot have complete free will. You cannot be in a position of complete free will where Allah Azza wa Jalla has nothing to do with your actions. Which is why our belief is the belief of that was transmitted to us through the infallibles, where they found the middle ground. The middle ground is what? لا جبر ولا تفويض ولكن أمر بين أمرين. There's no predestination. There is no free will. Rather, it is somewhere in the middle. This is the belief of our infallibles, and this is the belief of our aqidah. Somewhere in the middle. Why? So that one, we don't fall in shirk, and two, we don't fall in kufr. Because one will lead to associating partners with Allah if we talk about creation and creating an action. And the other would fall into kufr because we have taken Allah Azza wa Jal outside of His kingdom. And this is extremely dangerous. Or even taking Him outside of His kingdom is part of associating someone with Allah Azza wa Jal, because we have associated ourselves with Him within His kingdom. And we have given ourselves complete free will within His kingdom. And this is something that is logically not acceptable at all. Therefore, it is somewhere in the middle. It is amran bayna amrayn. This narration is narrated from Imam Sadiq alayhi afdalu salatu wassalam, and it was explained by Imam Rida alayhi afdalu salatu wassalam. Look at the beautiful words of Imam Rida. He says that the reality of it is وجود السبيل إلى إتيان ما أمروا به. It is to find sabil is the way. It is amrun bayn amrayn, means Allah gives you the route, or He gives you a way for you to see what you were ordered with. وَتَرْكُ مَا نُهُوا عَنْهُ, and for them to leave that which they have been told to not go anywhere near. Meaning Allah Azza wa Jal, we have not taken Him outside of His kingdom, and at the same time He has given us a way for us to see where we can head. So then the question comes, okay, fine, no problem. We have free will and we have predestination at the same time. We're somewhere in the middle. Can I just remind the Shabab of one thing, please? Because I know this is one of those topics, predestination and free will, especially at time of A-level or when you go into uni. It's a hot topic. It's something everyone wants to speak about. Everyone wants to understand what is free will, what is predestination. Advice not from me, from our scholars. They say, do not engage into this subject more than this. What we have said today is enough. The reason being is because you are trying to understand Allah's sifat to a point where it is much more than what a normal individual is able to. Remember, we said Allah burdens us, but He doesn't burden us more than what we can handle. This is more than we can handle. We will never understand what amrun bayna amrayn is. In fact, the greatest of scholars try to understand it, and as a result of it, they leave out of the way. They go astray. Therefore, this is enough. And if you have an understanding of what amrun bayna amrayn is, and as long as it is between predestination and free will, no matter where it is on the line, is fine. Khalas, that is what you believe, and this is your aqidah. As long as you don't say there is complete free will, and as long as you don't say there is complete predestination. So then we come to ask the next question. What is my role then in writing my destiny? How is it that my actions can be those actions that would affect where Allah Azza wa Jal would change His decree? And here I want to touch on something very quickly in the English language, but I want to focus more on it in Arabic, which is the issue of bada'. Those of you who understand Arabic, you'll learn more about it then. Here I don't want to focus on this, because it is something that can be very confusing in the English language. The reality, however, what I want you to understand is this. Allah Azza wa Jal does not change His mind, we change our minds. Allah does not change His mind, we change our mind. Rather, Allah Azza wa Jal shows that to the slaves what He sees necessary for them to know at that specific time. And He does not show them what He thinks could be harmful for them at a certain time. A very simple example. The Sharia of Nabi Allah Musa alayhi wa ala nabina wa alihi afdalu salatu wassalam, was it similar or different to that of Isa? Different. Meaning, did Allah change His mind when it came to the people of Isa? No. It is that time, this is what was suitable for them. And their Sharia, from the Sharia of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, is also completely different. Did He change His mind? No. It is just that this was necessary for that specific time. A person comes and says, the nights of Qadr we do ad'iyah, but Allah Azza wa Jal has already written everything in a lawh al-mahfuz. And if it has been written, therefore whatever I do is not going to change. I tell you there is a second lawh that we always miss out when we talk about this. Allah has a lawh al-mahfuz, and no one knows this except for Allah. No one knows what it contains except for Allah. And Allah has a second lawh called lawh al-mahwi wal-ithbat. A lawh in which Allah changes certain things and He asserts certain things. This lawh is what prophets will be able to see. When we talk about, for example, the knowledge of the unseen of our beloved Prophet and the Imams, it is this that they are able to see, not lawh al-mahfuz, which also solves a lot of aqaidi questions for you when it comes to imamah and prophethood. It is this lawh that they are able to see. And this lawh is subject to change. Subject to change based on the actions of a human being. Which is why the Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, يَمْحُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيُثْبِتُ وَعِنْدَهُ أُمُّ الْكِتَابِ. Al-Kitab is lawh al-mahfuz. The rest is lawh al-mahwi wal-ithbat. So therefore this can change in this certain manner. I'll give you an example, a very nice story from the life of our Prophet Ibrahim alayhi wa ala nabina wa alihi afdal salati wa salam, where Allah Azza wa Jal had ordered him to slaughter his son. He ordered him to slaughter his son. Question, is this a hukum that was given to him? Yes. Was it wajib for him to do that? Yes. He came and he accepted Allah's decree on this. He accepted Allah's decree on this. He took his son, he said, look, I saw that I need to slaughter you. What do you think? He said, oh my father, if Allah has ordered you to do so, then I submit my will to Allah. Finished. So he brings him and he takes him to slaughter him. The moment he prepares the knife, Allah Azza wa Jal reveals a lamb from heaven. And then a order comes that slaughter the lamb and leave your son alone. وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. Leave your son alone. I ask you a question. Before that, Ibrahim was acting based on what? Based on what was made wajib for him in lawh al-mahwi wal-ithbat, correct? Then, this specific thing changed because he did a certain action which was accepting Allah's decree, and Allah rewarded him in this world by changing what is in lawh al-mahwi wal-ithbat and sending a lamb instead. Do we now understand how it works? Therefore, do I have a role in writing my destiny? Yes, I do. My actions decide certain things for me. Does Allah already know? Yes, He knows. His knowledge is prior to everything. However, that knowledge is separate to the natural course of action. His knowledge is that knowledge where He knows what actions I will take throughout my life to begin with, and as a result He has written my final destiny. But this is not available to me, nor is it even available to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So if it is not available to him, then let alone myself. Let alone myself. And therefore this is also of the lot that we are talking, of the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jalla, where He has given me a role in writing my own destiny. And therefore I should ponder about how I come forward to writing my destiny. How do I come forward to the nights of Qadr? With what heart do I make dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla and apply some of the things we said yesterday in our talk of Quran, the remedy and the cure, and apply also the idea of that we mentioned yesterday before a'mal, of actually doing a'mal not in a manner where I'm just using my tongue to say astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. No. With every istighfar, let me think of a sin that I have performed. And let me perform a true istighfar. Let me perform a true istighfar. I can say astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh 100 times, but the reality is I didn't mean anything with it. For example, now I'm talking astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. I'm not thinking of a specific sin. Is this considered istighfar? Of course not. So therefore, I can say it as many times as I like, but it doesn't have an effect. Let me think of what I am saying. Even when I come to the amal of Allahumma al'an qatalata amir al-mu'mineen, am I applying bara'ah in my life? Am I truly disassociating myself from the killers of Amir al-Mu'mineen? Or am I, in fact, no, just saying this, but I have the qualities. This is not you, but this is something for a person to ponder about. Or am I in a position where I say, oh Allah, withdraw your mercy from the killers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and I possess qualities that they possessed? No, I need to possess qualities of the Ma'soomeen. This is the true idea of walaya and bara'ah. The true idea of walaya is that I possess their qualities or I try to take their qualities. And bara'ah is that I disassociate myself from all of their qualities. And I also say this. Yesterday we had a good session, 2 hours. We did short a'mal. We followed it by one long dua. We had multiple reciters to change it up. Why did we do this? Why did we make it easy? There was other a'mal that we could have done. There were a'mal, for example, of 100 rak'ah on the nights of Qadr. This is extremely recommended. Dua Abu Hamza al-Thamani is extremely recommended on the nights of Qadr. In fact, during the whole month of Ramadan. But there is a message. The message is that the nights of Qadr is not a checklist. You do not need to tick off every single dua and every single surah and every single everything. You don't need to. Do that which you are able to. But do it with a heart that is turning towards Allah Azza wa Jalla. Maybe one word you say during the night of Qadr. Maybe you don't do anything, but you do one amal. But that amal, you are complete. You've taken your mind and your soul and your heart and everything towards Allah Azza wa Jalla, and that could be better than spending 7 hours on the prayer mat. That one moment of reflection and of the great a'mal of the nights of Qadr that also helps in writing my destiny is to gain more knowledge. Use these days to read more. Use these days to read more. A very nice story during the time of Sheikh Ibrahim Al-Ansari, may Allah bless his soul. A person comes to him in the shrine and he says to him, what is the best deed to perform on this specific night? It was the night of Qadr. He asked him, he said to him, are you a student? He said, yes. He said, then go back into your room and study. Go back into your room and study. Gain knowledge during these nights. Perform your ad'iyah during these nights. Turn to Allah Azza wa Jal with a clean, open heart, while knowing that you genuinely have a role in writing your destiny. You are not just saying it and Allah has already decided. No, Allah has given us an opportunity to change our destiny. So take that opportunity, inshaAllah. And I will make one final reminder. I know I mentioned this 10 times yesterday, but I have to mention it again. The first individual you remember on the nights of Qadr, Sahib Zaman, don't forget your Imam of your time. It is always good to remember Imam al-Hussein, always good to remember Amir al-Mu'mineen, but on that day, on the day of judgment, you will be called with Imam al-Mahdi. Did you even know who Imam al-Mahdi is? Remember him. Remember him. Remember him. Remember him. Learn more about him. Build a stronger relationship with him. The first step you can take on the nights of Qadr, which are the nights of Imam al-Mahdi to begin with. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها. On who? On me? Of course not on me. Imam al-Mahdi عجلة على فرجه الشريف. They don't just come to anyone. Understand the role he plays on the nights of Qadr. And allow that to be your first point of contact with him. Allow this to be the first time in which you start to build a stronger relationship with him. One way in which you can do that, and the most simple way, is by making dua for him. Make a dua for him. Then remember your brothers and sisters. Last thing you do is remember yourself. So that Allah Azza wa Jal will accept your deeds. And I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept your deeds on these blessed nights. And I ask you that you do not forget me from your du'as, and you will be included in mine, inshaAllah. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad thalatha.